My name's Felicity Boardman. I'm an Associate Professor here at Warwick Medical School and I'm currently leading a research project around genetic screening. So it's a study that's looking at the attitudes of people affected by genetic conditions towards genetic screening.
This project has been funded by the Wellcome Trust, and the purpose is to increase engagement, to share impact of the research. STAMP, which is Santé Theatre Media Productions, has a long relationship with the University of Warwick, and we were approached by Dr. Felicity Boardman to produce an immersive art experience on her research.
The study looks at conditions like spinal muscular atrophy, Fragile X, haemophilia, thalassemia and cystic fibrosis. So these are relatively common genetic conditions.
iDNA began to take shape in 2018. What we were interested in doing was creating an art installation, including a film and a sculpture and an interactive journey. We looked at some of the interviews that Dr. Boardman had conducted with these families.
People with Fragile X have very happy lives, very, very happy lives.
And we began to pull out some really interesting excerpts that spoke to all of us in the team.
You see, I thought that captures the complexity and the nuance. Yeah.
And then we began to think about how we could then translate these or use them as inspiration for an art installation.
The key element of this project is a large sculpture, some 3 metres high, 4 metres wide, and it is reminiscent of the helix, of the double helix, which describes the DNA code. The next big challenge then was to actually get this made. And we worked with a company that we've worked with before called Entify.
I designed the helix and built it as a scale model. And then I hand that to Dave, who has the clever job of working out how to make it work at 3 metres tall and 6 metres long.
We bent circles and then expanded them out to the right depth. Yeah. And then as they were putting together, it started to hold itself together. It was quite beautiful, actually.
I would like to have a job.
We actually wanted our visitors themselves to go on a journey. They do this by first entering through a security arch, which is reminiscent of the kind of arch you might see in an airport. And as you go through the arch, you will be confronted, as you always are in an airport, with some kind of queue management system. You will see 2 monitors, and these monitors will be playing verbatim text in a very particular way.
Would I change her, but would I change her? Probably.
We thought it would be really interesting to have some of the soundscape sung as well as spoken, because I think this takes the whole feel of it onto a different level, because of course music affects us on a very, I suppose, primeval emotional level as well. We approached 2 different groups who could compose and perform some of the words that were spoken by the families that were interviewed. And one of those groups is Gospability, who are based in Coventry, and some of the group are affected by inherited genetic conditions. The other group is a small, close harmony group of singers called the Be Naturals.
Sometimes I think it's something you can live with.
Visually, there is a narrative which shows different faces, a whole spectrum of different people.
As human beings, we really engage with faces. You don't often spend a lot of time looking at a face in great detail or looking at a detail like an eye or a mouth.
On each of the rungs of the ladder is a bag, and the bag represents the nucleotide, but it also represents the luggage, the baggage that we all carry with us as part of our DNA.
It's a feeling that isn't quite normal everyday life, but is something perhaps a little bit more intense, and that we hope will really draw you into these other lives.
It is about human beings, it is about us.
I think unless you've had a family member with a genetic condition, probably you may think, well, this isn't very relevant to me. Whereas actually, many people are carriers of a range of different genetic conditions, and they're just not aware until they represent themselves in a family. So I think this issue is actually entirely relevant to everybody.
We're hoping that people will be stimulated to understand more about inherited genetic conditions, to understand more about what we know, what research can tell us about our DNA and how important it is to understand the impact of that.
What we're really hoping is that when audiences visit the installation or they look at the film online, they're really going to become quite emotionally involved with these people who represent all of us.
It's a whole new way of experiencing my work that I just never had access to before, and I think it makes it so much more accessible.
The film and the sculpture, wow, the baggage lounge, I mean, what an interesting concept.
I really enjoyed the sculpture, I thought it was really interesting.
It made me really think about what the role is in genetic testing.
It's a very interesting concept of putting baggages and handbags onto a DNA model.
It just makes you stop, it makes you think, it makes you listen, and then it just makes you realise in this world of normality how things are not as normal as you think they are. And I think it's beautifully done and beautifully put together.
They sought to fall